It was just another Tuesday morning in Harlem. The streets were calm, the air warm, and life moved as usual. But for one man, the day was about to change forever. Without warning, two police officers walked straight toward him. He had done nothing wrong, yet their eyes told him he was already guilty. Moments later, cold handcuffs locked around his wrists. People on the street stopped to watch, confused. Someone started recording. Inside that police car sat a man whose true identity could change everything. But the officers had no idea, and when they found out, it would be too late. Harlem had always been his home. The smell of fresh coffee from corner cafes, the sound of street vendors calling out to customers, the mix of music drifting from open windows. It was a place full of life. People here knew each other. They stopped to chat, shared a laugh, and kept moving. In the middle of this lively neighborhood was Malik Edwards, a 35-year-old man who carried himself with quiet confidence. On this morning, he wore a navy blue suit and polished shoes, ready for another busy day. To anyone watching, he looked like a man in control, calm, focused, and comfortable in his own skin. Malik had grown up just a few blocks away. His childhood was not easy, but it taught him strength and discipline. He had worked hard for everything he had: his education, his career, his respect in the community. People nodded at him as he passed, some stopping to shake his hand. But Malik also knew a different side of life here, a side marked by suspicion, by quick judgments, and by the quiet fear that came from too many bad encounters with authority. Even now, with his success and status, he understood that certain things hadn't changed. This morning felt normal, but there was something in the air he couldn't explain. As he walked toward his parked car, he noticed a sleek black sedan nearby. The sound of footsteps approached from behind. When he turned, two uniformed officers were heading straight for him. They didn't smile, they didn't greet him, and in that moment, Malik felt the first sharp edge of tension cut through the warm Harlem air. The officers closed the distance quickly. One of them stepped in front of Malik's car. The other circled slightly to the side. Their movements were sharp and practiced, the kind that said they had already made up their minds. Malik stopped walking. His heart rate picked up, but his face stayed calm. In Harlem, he had learned long ago that staying calm could mean the difference between going home or ending up in the back of a police car. The taller officer began asking questions, short, clipped, and heavy with suspicion. Malik had heard them before. Where are you going? Where have you been? Do you live here? Every question felt less like curiosity and more like an accusation. People on the sidewalk started slowing down. Malik answered every question in a steady voice, but no matter what he said, the officer's eyes stayed hard.
One asked to search his car. Malik refused. He knew his rights, and he had nothing to hide. But he also knew that refusing could change the mood fast. It did. The officers stepped closer, closing the space between them and Malik. One of them reached for his arm. Malik tensed, but didn't pull away. Then came the cold click of handcuffs. In that instant, the street seemed to freeze. A few people gasped. Someone called out, "What did he do?" But no answer came. They said he was being arrested for resisting. The words felt empty, like a box waiting to be filled with any excuse. Malik's suit jacket bunched under the pressure of the cuffs. His polished shoes scraped against the pavement as they led him to the patrol car. The back seat smelled of rubber and old fabric. The doors shut with a heavy thud. Through the glass, Malik saw faces pressed close to phone screens, recording every second. The ride to the station felt longer than it was. Each turn of the wheels carried him further from the street where he belonged, and deeper into a system that had swallowed so many before him. At the station, the air was cold, and the walls felt too close. Malik was booked, fingerprinted, photographed. His tie was pulled loose during the process, and his once crisp suit now looked tired. The officers didn't speak much. They kept their expressions blank, avoiding his eyes. Somewhere deep inside the building, a metal door shut, and Malik found himself sitting alone in a small, dim cell. He stared at the chipped paint on the walls. His mind raced, not with fear, but with a sharp, focused energy. He knew exactly what this was. He had seen it happen to others countless times. He had fought against it in courtrooms. But now it was him. Somewhere outside, the city kept moving. Somewhere on the streets, the crowd was growing. And somewhere inside this very building, a truth about Malik was waiting to be discovered. A truth that could turn this entire arrest into the department's biggest mistake. Hours passed inside that cold cell. The hum of fluorescent lights filled the silence. Somewhere in the distance, phones rang, doors slammed, and voices echoed down the hallway. Malik sat still, his back straight, his hands resting on his knees. Then, the sound of footsteps approached. 2 officers stopped outside the cell. One of them was holding a file, his brow furrowed. The other avoided eye contact. The cell door opened with a metallic groan. Malik was told to step out. No explanation, no apology, just a quiet order. He followed them down the hall to a small office. Inside, a senior officer was staring at a computer screen, scrolling slowly. The room was tense. The senior officer's voice was low, almost careful. They had run Malik's name through their system. What they found was not a list of warrants, not a record of crime, but a professional history that carried weight. Malik Edwards was not just any man walking the streets of Harlem. He was a criminal defense lawyer. A lawyer who had spent years fighting wrongful arrests, racial profiling, and police misconduct. A man who had stood in court against the same system that now had him in chains. His name was in case files, legal journals, and even news articles. He had beaten cases that seemed unwinnable. He had embarrassed departments in open court. And now the officers in that room realized they had arrested him without cause, in public, in full view of cameras. The silence in the room was thick. No one seemed sure what to say. Papers shifted. A pen clicked. Malik stayed quiet, watching them with the same calm focus he used in a courtroom. They told him he was free to go. No charges. Just a misunderstanding. But Malik knew this was no misunderstanding. This was exactly the kind of abuse he had dedicated his career to exposing. And now, he had lived it. From the inside. Malik stepped out of the station into the cool evening air. The sun was gone and the city lights had taken over, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Outside, a small crowd still waited. Neighbors, strangers, people who had seen the arrest and stayed to see what happened next. Phones were still recording. He adjusted his suit jacket and looked at the faces around him. Some were angry, some were relieved. But all of them were watching, waiting for him to speak. Malik didn't say much. He simply nodded once, a silent promise that this moment wouldn't be forgotten. Word of his arrest spread quickly. The video of 2 officers cuffing a well-dressed black man for resisting had already gone viral. Comments poured in, some shocked, some outraged, and others sharing their own stories of being stopped, questioned, and humiliated for no reason. For Malik, the incident wasn't just personal. It was a reminder of why he did the work he did. He had seen the damage of wrongful arrests in courtrooms, but now he understood it in a way no textbook or legal brief could ever teach. He knew the cold bite of the cuffs, the sound of the cell door, the weight of eyes judging before they knew the truth. The very next day, Malik was back at his desk, case files stacked high. But now, every argument he made, every witness he defended, carried a sharper edge. He was no longer just speaking for clients. He was speaking from experience. The officers who arrested him would face internal review. Maybe they would lose sleep over the videos. Maybe they wouldn't. But Malik knew this much. The story was out, and it was bigger than him. In a city where too many voices had been silenced, his arrest had started a conversation. People were asking harder questions, demanding better answers. And as Malik looked out of his office window at the Harlem streets, he knew one thing for certain. Change was slow, but it began with moments like this. Because the real question was never, who is he? It was, how many others will it take before justice truly means justice?